One of the prized possessions of the Smithsonian National Museum of American History is the Southern Railway's Ps-4 Pacific No. 1401. This classic steamer was built by Alco at their Richmond works in 1926, along with 26 others, and was delivered in the iconic Virginian green and gold paint. Weighing in at 304,000 pounds, these locomotives closely followed the USRA Heavy Pacific design, with the exception of smaller 73-inch drivers and a slightly shorter boiler, along with the addition of a firebox combustion chamber and an Alesco feed water heater. This arrangement helped produce 45,535 pounds of tractive effort, allowing them to handle a 14-car train at 80 miles per hour on the hilly terrain between Washington, D.C. and Atlanta, Georgia. While originally built with Baker valve gear, the Ps-4s were eventually re-equipped with Walschaerts valve gear in the mid to late 1930s. A larger 6-axle tender supplied 16 tons of coal and 14,000 gallons of water. Their ferocious appetites would consume the entire supply of coal and water within a mere 150 miles. The Ps-4s were found system-wide, handling the railroad's highest priority varnishes. Most notably was the Southern Railway's Crescent Limited, a lavish 37-hour, 50-minute voyage from New York to New Orleans. The Ps-4s admirably handled the Crescent Limited until the train was dieselized in the 1940s. Equipment changes were common on this train as newer locomotives and passenger cars were purchased. 1929 was the year that the Crescent Limited received its most distinct array of new equipment. Engines 1393 through 1396 were selected and decorated with crescent moon decals on their steam chests and outer cab walls, as well as green number plates. Their tenders were also lettered Crescent Limited. A total of 5 new complete Pullman lash-ups were assembled. Each consisted of a baggage, lounge, buffet club car, 4 10-2 sleepers, an 8-1-2 sleeper, a 14-section sleeper, a diner, and a 3-2 observation car. As delivered, they were painted in the same Virginian green as the Ps-4s. The piers and mullions between the windows were painted in a lighter sylvan green. All of the names on the Pullman cars were chosen to honor the memories of distinguished citizens of the southern states which the train traveled. A head-end railway post office car was provided by each railroad handling the train on their trackage. The Pennsylvania Railroad from New York to Washington, D.C., the Southern Railway from D.C. to Atlanta, Georgia, the West Point route from Atlanta to Montgomery, Alabama, and the Louisville and Nashville Railroad from Montgomery to New Orleans. The RPO would be removed when the train changed hands and locomotives were swapped. On Monday, October 21, 1929, the new Crescent Limited with its matching consist was officially placed into service. The complete train presented a stream of green from locomotive to observation car. It was a sight to behold as these handsome and distinctive trains passed each other at speed, immediately attracting attention and proving to be one of the best advertisements of the Southern service. Unfortunately, the fame and glory of the new Crescent Limited was very short-lived. Just 3 days after its inauguration, a day that would go down in history as Black Thursday, saw the beginning of the stock market crash as panic selling caused stock prices to sharply drop. The Southern held on as long as possible, but inevitably the train succumbed to the economics of the Great Depression, and on June 30, 1934, the Crescent Limited ceased operation. The two-tone scheme was dropped in lieu of the more traditional Pullman green, and the train's name was listed as 37 and 38. It would resume on April 30, 1938 as simply the Crescent. 1941 saw the acquisition of the first diesel locomotives on the Southern, spelling an end for the need for steam on the Crescent. The Ps-4s would ultimately be assigned elsewhere. The quick dieselization across the system inevitably brought about the retirement and scrapping of their steam locomotives. Even the infamous Ps-4s were not immune to the changing times. All were retired and scrapped by the mid-1950s, with the exception of one. Thanks to the efforts of Mr. Graham Claytor, at the time a member of the Southern Railway's outside legal counsel, he was able to convince the Southern to save and donate the 1401 to the Smithsonian Institute. She was cosmetically restored and transported via flatbed trailer to her new home on November 25, 1961. Today, number 1401 sits a proud display in our nation's capital, reminiscent of a very different time in railroading history. Her colorful history spans 26 years, powering some of the Southern's finest trains, setting new standards for railroad promotion, and having the distinction of being one of the 8 locomotives to handle the 1945 funeral train for fallen U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt. The 1401 hasn't survived completely unscathed, however. On Saturday, April 25, 1942, she, along with sister engine number 1403, nearly saw the end of their careers when they struck a stalled truck in Norcross, Georgia, derailing both locomotives. They were repaired and were able to serve the South for another decade. While it's very unlikely the 1401 will ever leave the Smithsonian, she remains on display as a sterling example of the true class and expert engineering exhibited in helping make the Ps-4s the true thoroughbreds of the Pacific class. For more information on the Southern Ps-4 Pacific and other models available for Train Simulator, visit K&L Trainz online at www.kltrainz.com. If you've enjoyed this video, show your support by subscribing below and hit that notification bell to be alerted when a new video is uploaded. You can also follow along at K&L Trainz Facebook page and see progress of the latest projects being worked on. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.